pinch him, nudge him, get your attention, please. Thank you. I'm gonna pull the teacher thing. I'm just gonna stand here and look at y'all so everybody's quiet. You were well, there's some people who want to focus. Good evening.
Good evening.
There's a few more y'all. Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, there we go. Welcome. So happy to have all of you here. For those who don't know, my name is E.C.Wright. I'm founder and director at Bernstein Research Society. We are an institute of design research and critical thought. And every other week we do a regular broadcast called Nobody Asked for This, because I like to ask people questions and nobody's asking them, and nobody asked me to do any of this, but I chose to do it because I like to highlight the people that I'm fascinated by, intrigued by, and that I hold very dear. So tonight, on the occasion of this phenomenal body of work, my good friend Adam Davis, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to unpack a little bit about how we got to all these things. We're going to do some surprise stuff, but we're going to run through a couple of questions that come from our research standards. Maybe we'll have a little bit of fun. So settle in. This is streaming live on a couple platforms. We're going to try to make sure that this is efficient, but we're going to take the time that it takes. So, without further ado.
My dad was a photographer. wait, when did I do it? But those cameras in particular, I get now because they were made by hand. I wasn't there yet. I'm probably never going to be until I make my work. But the idea that photography was like around, there were always family portraits. There were always like, I mean, this no one here younger than 22? Tight. But this is like no phones. This was like cameras like these.
Yeah.
It was like whatever you had on you, just like that was when you like took pictures.
Right.
That was when it was like I'm gonna take a bunch of pictures. This is like we went to Disneyland that one year. We went to the Poconos. That was like our big thing. We went to the Poconos and my aunt and uncle were fucking everything. Yeah. But that photography was always there. And the day I graduated high school was my birthday. I took my birthday money and my graduation money. And told my parents after we left, we graduated, threw the cap and gown, like, nigga, we are going to the AT&T store around the corner, and I'm buying my first iPhone. And that was it. Like, the archives of my, like, Instagram, because those exist, and I don't want you to see, like, all of that shit. It's gross. But if I go all the way back, the first photo I ever made, was 2012. Going on a decade. But it was a picture of a picture in the downstairs bathroom in the gold frame, that pink flower. That's the first photo I ever made. After that, there was a Volkswagen, like an abandoned Volkswagen headed towards Tanger on the Middle Country Road to the left-hand side.
Oh, okay.
I used to walk there by myself. That's my mom. You just turn that
How does this person know all these references?
But that was the thing. It was like those are the first like moments of like, okay, I'm gonna go outside.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this is like Valencia Instagram filter.
But let's qualify this though, because like, never mind what it's become. When it started, Instagram was iPhone exclusive, and it was meant to be a way for you to share the photos you took with the iPhone was a gateway for a lot of people to start playing around with photography.
I wouldn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Like that was literally like when people go like, oh, how'd you do this? Is that an iPhone filter? I just say yeah. You might as well fucking like that's the thing, the nuance of where you live. But like thinking of where it started,
Yeah.
Steve Jobs. But like the thing is in that regard, like starting with a phone, going around, just walking around like abandoned streets on Long Island. If you've never been, don't go. But if you have, like there's just long stretches of roads and just trees and woods, and that one Alfredo's Pizzeria across the street from the McDonald's, like with the best Sicilian slices in New York. Like that's where you just walk around there. There's nothing but Italians and a few black people in Coram. Like that was it.
Yeah.
That was all we had in that neighborhood. So between going from there, when we moved, when I was a little bit older, and then going back to Brooklyn, where my dad's church was, that's where it was like the balance.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I'm going to do street over there when I go to church on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Right?
No, Saturday.
Sometimes Saturday. And then I do like, I'm a landscape photographer at the crib.
Because it's all right.
Nothing else to do.
Yeah. So, with that, you come out here, you fall into any number of different gigs. Teaching is something that I've watched you accidentally teach people. It's like some people are trained to be teachers and some people are called to it, but you gotta understand that difference. Like, it's a big difference, like trying to help someone get something right versus giving them space to learn how to think, you know what I mean? And that's something that you do very well, very, very well. With that, and a lot of the things that you taught yourself about photography, what were some of the parallels that you saw between yourself and other photographers, whether they were in your age bracket, whether they were in the same city as you, whether they were worldwide? We're talking about like, just who else did you see doing things that was like, oh, I could probably do that.
I think, mind you, I just hit record on the tape. See? Yes. I don't know. Right. I think I was really lucky in the sense that when I started making photos, when I started taking photos realistically, I always think of like city-to-city transplants as like my draft class.
Okay.
So like in 2015, we all moved to LA draft class. I'm meeting them as time passes, but I also have like a photography draft class where none of us knew anything, and we all had fun. So it was like we were the group, and we're all doing crazy stuff now, but we were the group walking around New York City aimlessly for hours with our phones. It's like trying shit out. All right, we're gonna just go walk. We're gonna just take 68 from one side of Manhattan to the other. We're gonna walk from Brooklyn to Harlem and back. We're gonna do Chinatown. We're gonna get on every rooftop as we can in the city. We're gonna get as many experiences in this part of town as possible. So who I saw, everybody, Steve Irby, Stephanie Colley, Eliza Regina, there's a lot of people. But like just thinking about like the whole Street Dreams group, that they were my core. And at first it was like we're all experimenting, and then Instagram took a pivot where it went from like we're sharing this to now it's a competition.
Right.
That's when young me was like, oh, this is fun. Now I'm like, you are an idiot. But it was like, okay, we're doing street photos, it's cute. We're like, oh, we get to go on one rooftop. Okay, let's try to get to the higher rooftop. Let's try to go to a higher rooftop. You know what? Let's climb the bridge. That's a small bridge. Let's get on another bigger bridge. Let's climb the Brooklyn Bridge. Let's climb the Williamsburg Bridge. Let's climb the Manhattan. Let's just do all the bridges. And it's like figuring out what the end game was, and all of us who did street style are all doing something different, like burnt out.
Yeah.
But now we weave street photography into everything else that we do, which I think is really cool. Like the way I talk to people. Raise your hand. You're gonna raise your hand a lot. Raise your hand if I just walked up to you and go, hey, who are you? What's your name? Even tonight, who are you? What's your name? What do they call you? I pulled him off the street. I didn't like save his life or anything. I saw him on the street and was like, who are you? You look fucking cool. What's your name? And we've been friends to this day. Was it 3 years?
Yeah.
Something like that. But like just weaving that aspect into the practice of photography was like the part that made it different. Doing photography, street photography for so many years.
Yeah.
That's what like bridges that gap in between like just figuring out what you need to be doing with like this kind of stuff.
And there's something about that, like, you can't just approach somebody if you haven't learned how to observe, right? Like, you have to be able to tell if something's going to go left or whatever the case may be. But also, all that time of walking and doing things that are uniquely New Yorkish, like climbing bridges, which no one does in Los Angeles. But, like, the idea of that time was honing your ability to observe things and notice, like, the context of things fall into. There's an intentionality that you shoot with. And before we get into like the type of print that these are, why this? Why capture people this way? Why capture Black people this way? Like, why is it important for you, not only just image making itself, but specifically this 10 type series? What was your intention behind it? Why was it important?
I saw a photo by a photographer by the name of Drielle Villa. And she's a nutcase. She's crazy. But like in a good way, I think. But I love her work, regardless. And raise your hand if you've seen Breaking Bad. Big pop culture show. The guy who played Jesse Pinkman, Aaron Paul, she made a tintype of him, basically same as this, but she took it a step further. What she did was she grew blue salt crystals on top of the tintype. You notice that in the show, they're slinging blue metal. I looked at that photo, mind you, it's on a computer screen, and I was like, how the fuck did you do that? That's the core of anything that I do with the camera. I look at something, or I'm outside walking. How did that happen? Like, how? That's why I go, like, who are you? Like, how the fuck did that happen? How did you make a science project out of a science project with photography, but make it like it's seamless?
Yeah.
And like, I had sent her a dozen emails, like, I want to just come by and just look at that. Just so I can figure out how I can do it. But as soon as I saw that photo, I was sold. I was like, what is this? And it was like a 3-month deep dive of like, in the dark room, Googling till late at night, falling asleep, waking up, getting back to watching videos, reading text, figuring out who made it, how they did it, why they did it, all these different things. And at that point, once I figured out how to like kind of do it, I was like, all right, I'll try. Let's see if I can try it.
Yeah.
And why these? It's just a matter of curiosity. It was like, okay, of all my days of making pictures and taking pictures and being on the internet, I have yet to see a photo like this. And it's really ironic because I look at photos like 98% of my day for the past 10 years. I'm just studying and looking, and I don't have any art school history or background. It's just, I saw something and I was like, I want to figure out what to do. There's no like, I went to school for this. So the idea of like, I looked at something, was curious about it, studied it. That's what it was. That was the draw. It's like, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because the history of tintypes and the reason why black people should be tintypes, none of that was present at that immediate moment.
Yeah.
It was the same way, like, okay, raise your hand if you have a disco cam on your phone. Are y'all sponsored? So I downloaded that app as soon as I got Instagram, and when you edit a photo on ViscoCam, I don't know if they still do this, but you're able to, like, when you post it through the app, they add the hashtag ViscoCam to your Instagram caption. And so when I posted the first photo that I took in the bathroom, I was like, oh, what's that hashtag? Because this is new Instagram. I didn't know what hashtag it was. I clicked it. The world opened. I was like, wait, Iceland? What? that was the moment. It was the same thing with the photo. I was like, okay, wait, tintype, what? And I didn't even have the word for it yet. It was just like, there's a thing I don't know about. I'm supposed to know all the things. This is just adding another thing. So by the end of the whole thing, it was like, okay, these are possible to do. And the history and the relevance and the archive and the black image and the slave, all that shit came out. Yeah. At first, I was just genuinely curious about how to do it. Mostly like a flex for myself. It's like, oh, I can do that. It's like a pat on the back, and then it turned into everything.
And that's the part about the teaching that comes from being a student yourself, right? Like, you don't have to have, like, you know, specific letters behind your name or before your name to qualify you to just be curious. But it does require a repeated, consistent revisiting and learning and putting yourself in space to just like be whack. Like, in order to get good, you have to be trash for a while. You have to be willing to be that to the point where being good or being trash is no longer important. It's more so about just doing the work, and it comes out of that. And you've done this, but also there are members of your community that you already had, and there are people that are now members of your community because you reached out. But like, this is a like, do you know how many pictures there were right here?
A lot.
Yeah. Does anyone have an idea of a precise number?
16.
54.
I should not.
Somebody said 56. Fantastic. You get the opportunity to buy something. Good shot. How many pictures are there?
54.
Why are there 54 pictures?
Raise your hand if I gave you a card. 3, 2, 1. So 48 of you have a card. I made 102 10 over the year. Why 54? So the original idea for this, to go back to come forward, as soon as I saw the photo, did the research, deep dove into what it was that I would need to do. I was like, how do I get a hold of the materials to do the thing? I had no idea. I go to the camera store. Shout out Sammy's, I think. Take all our money. But the staff there, they're fucking phenomenal. And so I go there, yo, I have this idea you want to do. You should talk to that person on that floor. I go to talk to the guy on the 4th floor. I talk to him. Hey, I want to make a bunch of tintypes in Lamert Park on Halloween, and I want to build a mobile darkroom and just street cast all day on Halloween day and night. And he's like, what do you want to do? Like, have you ever done this before? And I'm like, no. He's like, no.
Which is the whole thing that starts any entrepreneur or anything. Is like, how hard can it be?
Yeah, right. I can do it. I can do it. It's easy to do. And he basically was like, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a whole long process. And to tell the truth, I was really discouraged for that day. Because I was like, there's no way I can do it if the guy that I trust with all my camera knowledge just told me I can't do it.
That's interesting.
And I was like, ah, shit, all right, well, let me come back tomorrow and ask him again. Come back tomorrow, ask him again. Yo, remember that thing I told you yesterday? I want to try and do it. Is there a way that I can do it? He's like, I don't know, man. It's a pretty hefty thing. You want to like, have you ever been in a dark room before? And it's like, mind you, the dark room and all this like darkroom shit, and this is all new to me. I didn't do this until this past year. Real quick, you're gonna repeat these words. You ready? Mm-hmm. Do what you love.
Do you love?
Hold on. Do what you love.
Do what you love.
Love what you do.
Love what you do.
Those words were said by, I think I really in life have like one OG. His name is Roderick Sykes. Please. So, Roderick, my OG, made a place and a thing and a community and the greatest piece of art that I've ever seen in my life called Sandoval Village. That's where I live. That's where all these photos were made. And the darkroom part of this whole thing is new. Like, I lived there and got the privilege of just being in that room. And being able to close the door behind me and just go, right? Being able to just go is the block for a lot of people. So being able to just go ahead, yeah, go. Got to the point where they're like, are you asked to come in here too much? Here are the keys. Just go and just, yeah, you want to make this, I get it. But when I'm in the camera store talking to, what's his name? Who? 4th floor. Damien. I'm talking to Damien, thanks. So I'm talking to Damien. He's like, have you ever been in the dark room before? I had just developed my first photo like a week before that.
Yeah.
I have an old studio mate who we shared a studio back in the day, and he does only tintypes. Maybe I can get him on the phone. Call him right now. Mind you, he's behind the counter in a Sammy's camera uniform. Call him right now. He's on shift, on the clock, getting paid to service people for their camera. Call him right now. Please. Get him on the phone. Voice him. There's a voice note. That's not good enough. Takes out his phone. Text him. Pick up the phone. I'm there for an hour. He's calling. Please get Jeff on the phone. Please. Gets him on the phone. Puts it on speaker. Voice Lord saying, hey, my friend here has an idea I wanted to run by you really quick. Is it okay if you have a couple minutes? He's like, yeah. He said he wants to open up a mobile darkroom in Leimert Park. Mind you, he's like a 50-something-year-old white guy. Where's that? I want to just pause there. Then, lovely guy. He lives way up there. You know.
Yeah.
But once I okay, here's the idea. Same thing. Are you sure? And that "are you sure" is a big deal. Raise your hand if you think you're creative. I should see everyone's hand up. Everyone's hand should be up. Cool. At some point, when you tell somebody that you want to do something creative, I would say maybe 6 times, 7 times out of 10, someone asks you, "Are you sure? You want to do that? Are you like, you want to DJ? You want to be a photographer? You want to paint? You want to sing? You want to play the drums? You want to knit? You want to make clothes? You want to model? You want to make sneakers? Why? The lawyer school is right there. Like, for what?" And so every time someone asked, like, "Are you sure?" it was like, I'm probably doing something right.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, yeah, this nigga don't want something. And so he's on the phone. "Are you sure?" We exchanged contact information over the phone. And by contact information, I spelled out my email, and he emailed me that day. I got his phone number, and we were talking to the point where I rented a U-Haul pickup truck. I dented it, gave me $250 for the dent, and it wasn't even my fault. Serious truth, not funny. And he drove to Studio C, where he lives, and he just showed me he has a whole entire shed in his back, like a big shed, probably from like these pillars to the wall. The whole, like it's like a crib, right? So I walk in the back. I'm like, what are you doing? This is crazy. I just do this for fun, and sometimes I pay people to do it. People pay me to do it. And I'm like, can you show me how to do it? He's like, honestly, son, like I don't really have that much time, but I can give you the things that you need to start. And so my first episode of Night Trade, the first batch of clothing that I used, the first 20 plates I got were from that guy. He was like, all right, now all of the like subtle like, all right, good luck, have fun. I hope it turns out. And when I went to go bring him back his stuff, I think with you, I brought him back and he was like, oh my God, what? I was like, I didn't say this out loud. I didn't say it out loud. I was like, yeah, nigga. I told you this is what I wanted to do.
You asked if I was sure.
And I was like, yeah, so those two, those three, those two, those three, a couple in the back, like the first 20 were done in 3 days. Ron Finley was the last of about 20. There's the whole me and Ron Finley fighting over a tintype collection saga. We'll maybe get to in a second. But it was like, I came back to him, I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm not kidding at all. It made sense to do what I plan to do in Leimert as a village, because there's a dark room 4 feet from my house, where I should stay.
And you were taking a picture, like, 2 yards from
2 yards from, yeah. So it was like, it was a perfect transition, and when the time came to go back to him, he's like, I don't have any more of what you need. Let me show you where to get it. This is quarantine. Send me check. Take that. Take it. And before any of this, this is Vanessa, my camera. Say hello. Vanessa's named after my mom. So, I didn't have that. I didn't have any of these C-stands. I didn't have this. Shout out to Curtis Taylor Jr. I didn't have any large format camera, anything. When I made the decision to buy the camera, I was like, okay, I kind of had it in mind that I wanted to make something, but the tin type stuff, I didn't know existed until months later. For those of you who were photographed there, and for those of you who are wondering how much Vanessa costs, not my mom.
Right.
The camera costs $200. $200. Some of you spent to go to Toulouse.
The shade.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse, the read or the reaction.
But I say that on purpose because when people came to the village and were like, "Ooh, that camera looks dope. How much is it? It must cost you a brick." No.
We're talking about priorities, right? You prioritize the things that you get something out of,
Yeah.
or you make excuses for the rest, right?
Because there's a certain point, maybe like, I know you asked about like childhood or like when the coming of age shit. I kind of gauged childhood off of, I don't remember the exact date, I do remember what I was doing when I realized that this is all I'm gonna be doing till I'm dead. And I'm like, there's nothing that's gonna get in the way of that thing. So when I saw $200 on OfferUp, I was like, I want to buy 7. I want 10 of these. Most I can just give to my niggas, but I like, there's the money stuff that I don't care. Like, I want one of these. I want that. Yeah.
Commentary on that. In a time where there's sneakers that are operating the same way that commodities and art things do on the resale market, things of that nature, and explosion, streetwear, all of this other nonsense is out here. The bottom line is that you can do whatever you want to do and have whatever you want to have, but if you're selling a thing, all you get is money. You can always make money back, but it's an acquisition cost to acquire said thing. So no matter how much you shell out for that, the person you bought it from gets the money, and that goes away. You still have the thing. And that's important because we imbue things with stories. We imbue things with meaning, with energy, with time, with talent, with love, right? And that's a big deal. So to receive something from someone, whatever the exchange was, yeah, it may have been a brief encounter, but like, if you end up with the thing and it means something to you, no matter what you spent for it to acquire it, that thing's not priceless because you can't put a price on selling it.
Yeah.
But if you bequeath it to somebody, it holds a whole different weight.
That word money.
I've been waiting to use half of these words.
Raise your hand if you've heard that Kendrick Lamar song and said, let's get this shit. Y'all all heard that song, right? I think the one thing I got away from with that song was a lyric that Kendrick said before he did that let's get this shit part, where he said, now I look at money as a resource. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm gonna get a couple dollars. I'm gonna stash a couple away. Okay, what I have something going on in my head all the time. How can I take whatever pocket change I got and get to the thing? To the point where every stimulus check that came my way, camera, film, chemistry, food, sometimes, but like that was the thing. Like, when you get really in depth with that thing.
And that explains how you can make something happen. But it started with a realization. For some people, it's a decision or a commitment. But this is the thing I'm going to do will cost you less because you decided. And decision is expensive. Very expensive. Minimum house. But when we talk about how to do the thing that you say you want to do, that's the Allen Iverson thing. Practice. It's practice. But behind every practice is a process. And that's my favorite part of anybody's world, is learning how the thing works. How does it work? Your thing is like, who are you? What's your story? Mine is, how does it work?
Yeah, for those of you who talk to me on occasion, when we talk about art, we talk, oh, did you go see so-and-so show? And of course, Lynn's favorite word, respectfully. I say I don't really care about the art on the wall. I'm big on, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Same thing with Drill, the same thing with Harry James Marshall, the same thing with Ethan Watson, the same thing with Arthur Jacobs, the same thing with Unal Sherrod, the same thing with Harry Bailey, the same thing with everybody, Colleen, everybody. I'm like, how did you do that?
Yep.
And it feels like, first it's like, okay, you gotta put every decade to start. And then you gotta just continue to be curious. But when I go to art shows, when I go read books, when I go talk to people, it's like, okay, how do you choose to match the Yeezys with the bandana, with the thing? How do you like go through every part of the process? Like I'm picking people apart, but in a friendly way, where I'm like, I like that part of it is the thing that I'm more drawn to.
Yeah.
Because if I'm looking at the end product, like if I'm looking at the photo of Kat, I'm like, that photo is the best learning curve that I had in this entire process. Where I learned something from that focus.
Put a pin in it and come back to it, because I'd like to know what's the process for making it sometime. Like, how do you do this?
Okay. You're following me? Yeah? I'm gonna get up. Is that okay? Louis! Alright, so I'm gonna give you this. You this. Okay, no, look, it's for a reason. When you see somebody,
For those that are watching streaming, he's walking around. You can't see that.
You're right on time. Lucy, you lock the door after that guy. So you want to know how?
Now,
All right.
so real quick, y'all, for everything that's about to follow, you're going to want to stay in one place because you may not be able to see. Like I said, per my previous message. Yeah, who has
That's okay. So you asked me,
How you doing?
how do I do this? Right? Oh, it's like Halloween, but not really, I guess. Whose phone is this?
Mine.
I love your background. I received that for you. That's fucking dope. Get all the money you want for it. Makes you happy. All right. I gave everybody a card. I gave everyone a card. And now, yeah, nigga, production guy.
Start Griselda
Is actually just show you. Because I don't really care to talk about how it's done. It was made by two French guys in the 1820s. They started with what we call daguerreotypes, and they ended with what we call your iPhone, right? I'm going to make a special request for those of you who plan on trying to record this with your phones. Turn them all off. You're in this room with a bunch of people you may or may not know. Just chill for a second. All right? It'll be fun. It'll be on Instagram somehow tomorrow or something. I don't know. But the idea of how to do this is pretty simple, honestly. It really takes about 5 minutes, give or take. And the process of people coming to the village to sit for a portrait and experience this process, it was really like me talking to a person for like an hour, catching up with them about life and about death and about what we ate today and if we rested and if we had anything on our minds that we want to just get off our chest. And it transitioned into 5 minutes of your time so I can just make a picture of it. And the difference for me from making a picture versus taking a picture, I like really learned doing this. Where you take a picture, it's like you're just grabbing. You're trying to figure out how you do it. And I do it every day. I take pictures all the time. But figuring out the science behind making something, the same like my mom corrected me this morning. I posted a picture on Instagram. It was like, here's my mom making a picture of two people who are sometimes famous, right? She was like, oh, you gotta, it's a typo, you gotta fix it. I was taking a picture. I was like, no, you weren't. You made that picture of them because I could tell that your intention was a bit different than what it was. And for a lot of the people that I've come across who do pictures, I'm going to ask for 2 favors. I'm going to ask you, sir, there's a sink outside those doors. Fill it a quarter of the way with water. And don't fill it. Who is the Four of Diamonds? Come on. Give it up for Mariah. So, to answer all of you very nervous, skittish, anxious people with the participation part, this is it. You're welcome. But the idea is I'm actually going to just make a picture and show you how to do it. Because the biggest part of this whole process, thank you, sir. The biggest part of the whole process was seeing it in front of me. And the first time I made a tintype, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. But I got all the materials, I made sure there were people ready to go, all these different things were happening, and until I saw it happen right in front of me, I was in disbelief. I was like, there's no way this is gonna work. I'm an idiot for trying this. And then when I saw it develop on the plate, I was like, oh nigga, this is So, it's gonna smell like a dark room, because it's a dark room. It's gonna be okay. This is called collodion. It is a mixture of cadmium bromide, potassium iodide, ammonium bromide, ethyl ether, and ethanol. We're safe, it's all good. This is the developer for said plate. It is ferrosulfate, sucrose, acetic acid, and potassium nitrate. All those things mixed together in a sciencey way that I won't bore you too much with, but yes, I read about it in a book somewhere. There's a bath of silver nitrate where if I'm going to sensitize a plate, if I can find it, there we go. I'm going to sensitize a plate, and you're going to see exactly what I'm doing now. Mariah,
Yes.
I'm going to talk to you while I'm doing this. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Can we keep that door closed? We have a dark room going on here, y'all.
It's so fun because that's what I would do. Like, close the curtain! Stop what you're doing. I'm making stuff. So, Mariah,
What's up?
when was the last time you failed at something?
Last time I failed at something. Pretty recent.
Are you brave to share? Or would you
Yeah.
rather keep it to yourself?
Yeah. I failed a relationship. It sucked. I don't know if I would call it a failed relationship. I'd call it like a, cause like we tried, but didn't quite work out.
Did you learn anything?
I did.
What'd you learn?
To walk away. And that sometimes, like, it's like one of those things where it's like, it started so great, but ended so terribly. It was a real shame, because, like, it would have been a really cool story. But it didn't work out.
What's the first thing you ate today?
Today, I ate lasagna.
Living.
So my sister made lasagna yesterday. It was
Nice.
fire. Straight up.
It was
I
fire.
was like, it was fire.
When was the last time you breathed fresh air? Before you answer that, what time is it?
805.
8:05. At 8:08, someone stopped the both of us from talking.
Word.
What I'm doing now, I poured this chemical, all this stuff, I got it all in my hand, it's fine. But this particular chemical, the bromide, the potassium, the cadmium, and the iodide, are blending with the silver. All those salts, the bromide, the iodide, those things are going to dissolve and become light sensitive with the silver, with the bromide, and the cadmium. Those two things become light sensitive, and then I can actually make a picture with it. The same way, those of you who get Portrait 400 and you under and overexpose it, it's kind of the same thing, but like really old. Continue, please. Sorry.
What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Lasagna, because that's what I'm having if I leave here. And I just figured my dinner out. We good.
It was good. Oh, fresh air.
There we go,
Yes.
fresh air.
I went outside like an hour ago.
Shit, but it was like, no, that's real shit. It's hot as hell. That's real shit.
And I got some air. And enjoyed the sidewalk. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
This question is really important.
Yes.
Who's the first person you fell in love with?
His name was gay. Yeah, but up with? Myself, yeah.
While you're answering these questions, I'm going to ask you really big favors, right? Don't do that. The thing with this, the whole process of making these particular portraits.
You got 30 seconds.
30-second warning.
The process of making these portraits, we use natural daylight. So the camera exposure, the shutter, the box that is a camera, was only open for a second. But in camera terms, that's forever. Because it can be blurry, you can sneeze, you can cough, you can get a text, and you're like, oh, shut up.
Time.
Thank you. All these different things can go kind of wrong, but I need you to not do it, okay?
Yeah.
But you're talking about you fell in love with yourself. Do you remember the exact day?
It's pretty recent. It was in the summer, and I was in Tulum.
Hey, I said it for a reason.
Felt that in my heart.
I said it for a reason. What'd you do while you went to Tulum?
I did a ritual, and I sweated a lot. I shed a lot.
Ayahuasca or no?
No. Yes.
Hey.
And I turned 30, so that was pretty good.
Hey.
But I had a moment on June 13th, which is the day before I turned 30. And you just have this feeling where you kind of you settle into yourself. So, yeah, it was weird. It was funny because my hair braider, because you gotta get your hair braided for the flu. She was like, Mariah, you go to bed 29 and wake up with bad bitch.
Hey.
Hell yeah. So this is part of the process. This is where the picture shit happens, right? Where I'm going to press the button that's shining right here. It's going to be bright as all hell. I'm sorry. I'm going to do it like 5 times.
Okay.
Okay? You ready?
And don't move, right?
Don't move, please. But I'm going to test. I'm going to give you a test. I don't want to scare you. So you ready? Everyone ready? Cool?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, wait, no.
There it is.
There's no BB cell. I'm asking for Sean.
Oh, hey.
Hold it down, Sean.
Ah, there we go.
Alright, we gotta go quick, because when this happens, the intention.
Summer?
When you do this, The idea of doing this, it's called wet plate photography. Means that all this shit has to happen while the plate is wet. If it dries up, no business. Okay? All of you are laughing here. So, the idea is, I'm gonna set this up, everything's ready to go, all the settings, you're in focus, you're good to go. I'm actually gonna just stand over here, you're gonna look straight into the lens. You're gonna embody your... Thank you. And I'm actually gonna flash this approximately 4 times. And you're really bright. We already went over this, you all saw it.
Y'all might want to
But
close your eyes.
as a reminder, when you do something like this, you shoot portrait 400, 800, 160. This has an ISO of 1.
Oh, shit.
So the amount of light you need to do this is ridiculous. Which is why we did it in broad daylight, left the camera open for so long, which is why we have to blind Mariah for 30 seconds to get the result that we need. But we're going to go straight to the lens. You're good to go. 3, 2, 1. That's 1. Stay still. 3, 2, 1. And 1 more. 3, 2, 1. You're going to clap for Mariah on the last one. The next part of this, now that we basically just burned an image of Mariah into the light-sensitive material, the next and most important part of it is to develop it so that we know that an image actually happened. The same way like you take pictures of your tacos every time you get them. You're like, oh, I got tacos, I want everyone to see it, and I'm going to try them. I promise you. Like, I really want to, like that. So, this is the developer. You only need a little bit of it. But ideally, I'm going to pour this developer on this, and you're slowly going to see yourself pop up. And the idea is if my math was mapping, I think y'all say that now. If it was working well enough, the idea is that a photo of Mariah is now permanently burned into this plate of aluminum. Develop it a little bit longer, and it's now in the water. And I put it in water because I gotta wash away all the developer chemical that's actually happening, and I think I see your collar. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's you. So the idea is, now that it's in the water, the development has stopped. Nothing's happening anymore. But it's also no longer light sensitive. You open the door? You want a breath of fresh air? Yeah. Yeah, go for it. Ask Ceci to turn the light on.
Hey, there we go. We're back.
Now here's the magic part. Here's the magic part. Come here. You're really close. So Aja saw this, Bahim saw it, everyone. Oh my God, dang it. Sorry, yeah. Ironically, we need to work on changing the camera term for lighting because it's called slate. For some reason. That's weird to me.
Nothing
But
ironic about that, sir. That's
but-
by design, my brother.
But
They were doing.
I'm going to show you how this actually works. So this is a fixer material. It actually changes the image into you.
Hey.
There you are.
That's fine.
love to get one from me in the future. But the idea is now this image is never gonna go away. This will never fade. The same tintype images that were made in the 1850s, right? Those are still preserved to this day. I saw them in person, where I went to Ron Finley's house. Ron's there, behind those locks, the gangster gardener. You've seen his TED Talk. I went to his house. Mind you, this is after months of figuring out who I wanted to sit for a portrait, and I photographed his son, Ocean. Hey, you know who would like to do this too? Who? My dad. What? the gangster gardener guy I saw on YouTube in 2015? That guy? Yeah, he has tintypes all over the place. He loves it. I was like, tell him to come now. So I took group chat. He's 50. You want to start a group chat with 50? Okay. Good. Text back immediately. Yo, when you trying to do this? I dropped my phone. Okay. All right, come tomorrow, 2 p.m. Don't be late. 1:50. Walking down. Hey, nigga, I'm here. All right. We're talking, shooting the shit. He has a collection of tintypes, black tintypes from the 1800s and early 1900s. I'm like, how did you get it? Because this is like the new, right? You have the originals. Oh, I've just been buying them for 20, 30 years. That's dope. That's sick. All right, well, how did it preserve so long? Word for word. Nigga, these will never fade. Wait, y'all know, the thing is, y'all are laughing. That's what this is. They will never fade away. This photo of you will give to your family, their children, their children's children, their children's 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 children. If you want to start a family, if you want to have a connected family, whatever you want to do with them, whoever you pass them down to, it will be like this forever. So the idea of when you ask like why black tintypes, well, yeah, why not? Absolutely, why not? But the biggest thing being that it feels like we so easily fade away, right? Like, oh, that person, yeah, we're gonna arrest them. All drugs, crime, all this, all that. You're not good enough. You're not this. You're not that. Mind you, I kept like really close to here. Someone told me my heart is like closer to here than here, but whatever. But I kept it like really close to this general vicinity. That when it came to like us fading away, every black person that I told this idea to was like, let's go. Let's get this shit. Let's get this shit. But every black person I told this idea was like, yeah, duh, what are you talking about? Yeah, dude, you're the idiot who wants to do this kind of, let's do it. Not every, but most white people I told this idea to. You sure? You have experience? Are you crazy? Have you tried it before? Why do you want to do it? Where are you going to put it? Let me see some of your work first. All these things. And so when I talk about fading away, the use of these tintypes for black people when they first came about to be a thing. Slaves, Civil War soldiers fighting for someone didn't really give a fuck about them to this day. Indentured servants, babies out of a very unfortunate and violent situation between owner and owned, right? That they were brought into the family portrait with the other white babies because they were family, because they were a certain, yeah. But the idea that these can't just go away, I gave these cards to people like that, people like y'all. Because whoever it was going to be would have photographed you, and you're never going to fade away. Whether or not you have this in your hands, it's never going to fade away. No one's going to be able to remove you from shit. From history, from where you live, from your neighborhood, from your family, from anything. The biggest thing that I've learned in this entire process was to not let anyone tell me I can't do something. David, stop. But the idea that I have to keep calling Jeff. Are you sure I want to? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm going to keep calling. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not stopping. How many times have we had a conversation about people who are successful or whatever metric they deem of success, how stupid they have to be, kind of, to get to that point when everything else in your life is telling you no? This is all I'm doing until I'm dead. I swear on everything I love, my mom's right here. People have told me from start to the finish, and of course in the middle, you can't do it. I'm like, I'm not going away. Think about the last. Who's the first person to die in a horror movie? Who's the villain in most stories around the world? No. Who's the person that's like the one who made it out and is in the stratosphere? Us too, at times. But the idea that this historically has been meant for people with money, access, resources, wealth, nepotism, oil money, slave money, this money, that, all these different things, to make it at a black-owned space with black people at a time when black people are still dying most from the shit. You all have masks on. This is still affecting us. Everyone at large, but we know, right? So the idea that these are never going to fade away, I've told a few people. I'm going to say it out loud so you're all like my accountability partners now. By the time I'm dead, it's going to happen, right? I want 20,000 of these. I'll say it again. Time I am dead, I want to have 20,000 of these. At first, it was a joke between me and Ron. Like, nigga, you have 1,000, but you bought those. I made mine. But these are the kinds of archives that I'm thinking about. This is a long game play. This is documenting us in a way that is way more futuristic than we can give it credit for in the present. People will come up, how do you feel right now? The show's happening. I'm sleeping. What else? But looking at these photos, there's history on these walls. There's history in the room, of course. But what's on the wall, that's the thing that I want to have a documentation of over the course of a very long time. So, yeah, I'm gonna Does it smell in here? Like chemicals or no? Oh, so y'all smell like what y'all last ate?
It's terrible. We're going to wrap this up. First, to wrap this up, so we're going to close this out and open it up to just like letting people gather. But before we do that, First of all, thank you all for being present for this, because this memory is not going to fade away from me anytime soon. But the main reason for that isn't all the things that Adam said. You got to see it. And there's that thing like you can't be what you can't see. So being able to see this, us having this conversation and documenting this, like, we can't wait for anyone else to take care of the stories that we care about, because everyone's not going to care about it the same as we do. And that's even within the community. Like, you know certain things that you care about, and somebody else is like, yeah, no, I'm not keeping books, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, it's fine, get the laws, or yes. But the bottom line of our entire journey through your history, the parallels that you found, the context you found yourself in, and just your undying curiosity and your unyielding commitment to figuring it out. What do you hope to leave for some level of interpretation or inspiration? Because you're going to do more than 20,000 of these. You're going to do more things that you haven't even gotten to yet. But just from this evening, anyone that has seen this, what do you hope that this inspires them to do, even if it's just to be free?
I think the greatest gift that I was probably given was this space to like zone out and really try new shit.
Yeah.
But in that time, it got to the point where I learned how to make my own space, or make my own way, or attempt at a way.
Yeah.
And that would probably be the thing. Because they're like, this is Jazzy, he's like my big sister. We had a conversation, she called me and was like, yo, how you doing? I'm sad. Why are you sad? Because this college said that was only worth X amount of scholarship. I'm like, all right, so I pay a lot more money. I want to be a college professor. I'm going to do that too. I'm going to teach this in college. So, yeah. But the idea that I thought that that was the route, you had to get a degree in the thing to go do the thing. And Jazz is like, hey, what are you talking about? Go do it another way. We've talked about this before. Like, this is not, it's not this surefire way to do anything. So, if you, whatever the fuck you want to do, I don't know what it is for all of you, looking at everyone in your eyes, I don't know what you want to do. But if there is a way, go. Like, because the biggest part is if someone doesn't hold your hand through it or walk you through it, it can be difficult. But the stupidity enough to keep going anyway, that's probably it. There's no like other thing. Like, okay, this is what I want to do. You know it.
And don't be afraid to ask over and over again. You're not bugging someone if you're asking them for the access to learn. You're just asking for the access to learn. Ask Adam. Ask me. Ask anybody in your church. Ask someone tonight that you don't know, but maybe you've been following.
There's a lot of that that you're not
A whole lot of that. And like, nobody should leave out of here without at least meeting one new person. But ask the questions. So we're going to wrap that for now. I'm going to stop my camera. But if there are any questions that still stand out, we're going to take 2. And then we're going to break so that people can get outside, breathe, get something to drink, all that stuff like that. Cool? So think about your question. We'll stop my camera.
Yeah, you do that. Who? Okay. Here's how we're going to do the question thing, right? Who is the